Another busy week from Wall Street to Detroit to Washington, all around the country and the world. So how are the most successful investors responding to today's economic conditions, and what is the forecast for recovery? Joining me now, Jim Rogers, investor, co-founder of the Quantum Fund, and author of a very interesting new book, A Gift to My Children, A Father's Lessons for Life and Investing. Jim, welcome back. Good to see you.
I'm delighted to be here, Tom.
Let's start with the question about Friday's unemployment numbers. What do you make of them?
Tyler, they're embarrassing. I don't know why people pay any attention to U.S. government numbers anymore. If you read them, they said that even construction had increases in employment last month. Now, we know that's not true. Every category, they said, had increases in, and the main reason it showed such good numbers was because they have something called the births and deaths adjustment. They make it up. If you look at the births and deaths adjustment, we gained 247,000 employees last month from the births and deaths. TV, you got to talk about things like that.
So it's a synthetic number. So let's get to the real question here. There have been a lot of economic data out over just the past week, and there'll be more coming. Is the recession over? And if it is or isn't, how do I make some money on it?
It's not over yet. We're in a period of phase where it's looking better, because remember, if suddenly everything drops and nobody buys anything, and then they go down and buy some more toothpaste or some more beans or something, then of course it looks better for a little bit because they weren't doing anything. And the government is shoveling out huge amounts of money, and some of those people are getting the money and starting to spend it. But no, after this, we're going to have this, and it's going to be worse.
So no big spike up. You think there's a roll back down?
I think there's a roll back down probably next year or maybe later this year. People will realize that the worst is not over.
So how do I invest? If that's your macro view, and I realize there are a lot more things than just a big economic call that go into how you invest, but given that, how should I put money to work today? And I note you told me yesterday that you have no shorts on right now.
I have no shorts for one of the few times in my whole life. I've always been hedged and balanced, except for one or two times in my whole life. So no, I don't have any shorts. I think that maybe the stock market's okay, which is a bit different because they are flooding the world with money. Flooding the world with money. If you want to, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I don't have shorts, but I'm not buying stocks because the fundamentals for most companies and most industries are still deteriorating, despite this little rally like this. The only sector of the world economy I know where the fundamentals are improving are commodities, raw materials, natural resources. Farmers cannot get loans for fertilizer. Even though inventories are the lowest in decades, nobody can get a loan to open a mine. So you have supplies of everything continuing to decline. Now, Tyler, if the economy goes up like that, and I'm wrong, I'm going to make money in my commodities because the supply is down. And if I'm right and the economy is going to do like that, commodities are still the best place to be because they're printing so much money. And whenever governments have printed money throughout history, it has led to rising prices.
And basic supply and demand in the commodity market is what's driving it, if I cut through all of that. Now, Chairman Bernanke earlier this week sort of warned, scolded, I guess you could say, that if we don't do something about the deficits that we've brought on, and I sort of find myself thinking, now he tells me, we're going to court higher inflation down the road. I assume that you think we're going to have higher inflation down the road, and I assume that you would think that that also argues well for commodities.
No, of course it does. Well, I'm glad Mr. Bernanke finally figured it out. He's been down there for 6 years making mistakes every week for 6 years in a row. So sure, he's exactly right. This is going to cause huge problems down the line, and it is going to cause much more inflation. As I said, printing money has always led to higher prices. That's why even if the economy is bad, commodities will be at a better place to be.
So we have basically taken on a tremendous amount of debt. We have gone and spent a tremendous amount of money through stimulus. I was at a dinner a couple of weeks ago where one of the folks there said, I see no way that we dig ourselves out of the hole that we're in but by expanding the money supply and inflating our way out of it. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, of course I do. Do you see any other way? If you can tell me another way. Mr. Bernanke doesn't know another way. Mr. Bernanke, as best I can tell, is counting on the tooth fairy to bail us out down the road. I mean, the amount of debt that has been added is staggering. They have something like quintupled or sextupled the amount of debt in just a year.
All right, let's talk about fatherhood. You have recently become a father later in life. I have a 3-year-old, father for a second time rather later in life. How has fatherhood changed you?
Well, I've certainly learned a whole lot. I have emotions I didn't know I had. I've learned there's a whole class of people in the world I knew nothing about. Parents. I ignored parents. I didn't know anything about them. I never paid any attention. Boy, was I wrong. I used to think it was terrible to have children. I was totally wrong, Tyler. Everybody watching this show, if you haven't had a child yet, get home and get on with it. I'm telling you, take the day. Don't take a day off these days. These are perilous times.
Your boss
do it
may
on your
come
lunch
after you.
hour. Yeah, do it on your lunch hour.
But so, do you wish you had become a father earlier or not?
If I'd had a child when I was 20 or even 30, it would have been terrible for me, for the child, for the mother. No, so I don't regret that. One of the advantages of coming to it later is I know I've had a lot of failures and a lot of successes that I can now pass on.
One of your lessons to your daughters is beware of boys.
Absolutely. I was a boy.
You think they'll follow that advice?
Well, I hope so. I was a boy. I know how dangerous boys can be. I know boys need them more than we need them.
And there they are. And once again, the book, A Gift to My Children, A Father's Lessons for Life in Investing. Jim Rogers, thanks.